Bets always carry risk, and risk can feel, well, risky. That's why hedging a bet can feel so right. You get out from under your risk. You guarantee profits. You don't have to sit around sweating the score anymore. But is eliminating risk all that matters when you hedge? Today, I'm going to show you how hedging can actually hurt your long-term profits and what you should consider when you think about hedging. Hi, I'm Jack from Unabated, where we provide software tools and education to help people find and place sharper bets. I've been a professional gambler for over 20 years. I'm an advantage player, someone who is always looking for ways to get an edge at gambling. Hedging is about more than just reducing risk. To demonstrate, let's go back a couple decades to 2006 when the Steelers met the Seahawks in Super Bowl 40, so you can see what I mean. And hey, maybe we'll find your iPod. Pretend for a second you were sitting on a futures ticket on the Steelers for $500 at 12-to-1 odds that would win $6,000 if Pittsburgh beat Seattle in Super Bowl 40. If you wanted to try to guarantee a profit, the Seahawks were available on the money line for plus 150. You could have bet $2,600 on Seattle and made $3,400 no matter who won. Would you make that play? Before you answer, think about what you'd be giving up. Pittsburgh had a 65% chance to win that game, which means your expected value on that futures ticket was actually $3,725. The hedge means you're giving up $325 in expected value. That's a problem because our entire mission as skilled sports bettors and advantage players is to find spots where we have a positive expected value. You have to work hard to find expected value in this game, and you shouldn't give it up without a fight. But understanding how a hedge affects your EV is just one side of the coin. There's a key piece of information you're still missing. You need to factor in your bankroll size before you can adequately answer the question. Consider this. If your bankroll was only $1,000, you'd want to hedge Seattle hard. About $2,000 to win $3,000 would be right. If your bankroll was $10,000, you'd hedge a little less. And if it was $50,000, you wouldn't hedge at all. That's because the decision to hedge a bet should be guided by how it helps grow your bankroll, not whether or not it helps you mitigate your risk. In 2022, the best golf bettor working today, my friend Massey-Peabody, had $500 on Mito Pereira to win the PGA Championship at 300-to-1. It was $150,000 for the win. Pereira took a 3-stroke lead into the final round. Was it worth hedging the bet before they teed off on Sunday? Coming into the round, Justin Thomas, Cam Young, and Will Zalatoris were all in the hunt. The three of them played well enough to close the gap, but Pereira held on to a thin 1-stroke lead entering the 18th hole. So you'd think this is when Rufus hedged, right? That last hole was a disaster for Pereira. He sent one into the water, another into the rough, and one over the green. He got a double bogey on the hole and fell behind 2 players who went on to a sudden death playoff with the tournament on the line. But at least Rufus hedged the $150,000 payout, didn't he? Actually, he didn't. He lost out on that bet, and all the other bets he stood to win if Pereira had held on. If he's the best golf bettor working today, why didn't he hedge? It sounds crazy. He only had $500 on the line, and he could have guaranteed himself a piece of that big payout. It's because his bankroll was too big to justify hedging that bet. As sports bettors, our decisions are all made through the lens of what helps us grow our bankroll the most. Most of the time, the answer to the question is easy. We just keep stacking up positive expected value. But sometimes, when the money involved is so significant relative to your bankroll, it's worth sacrificing some expected value because a bigger bankroll lets you profit more off future plus EV situations. There's complex math that goes into each decision, literally calculus. But you need to know 4 things to answer the question as to whether or not to hedge. Your current bankroll, how likely you are to win the bet, how much you stand to win if you do, and what the odds are you can hedge at. We have a free calculator at Unabated that you can use to work out those decisions. It'll do the calculus for you. I'll drop a link in the description. For Rufus, His bankroll may have been bigger than the average bettor's, but the process is exactly the same. He gave Pereira a 41.5% chance of winning the tournament. When he factored in all the bets that he would have won, including the outright winner bet, Rufus stood to collect $300,000. The price on the field, all golfers other than Pereira, was minus 170, or about 63% implied probability. Rufus calculated that at that price, and with that win probability, he would have hedged if his bankroll was a little under $1.5 million. But because his roll was more than that, he didn't make the bet. What about if he had a tiny little $1 million bankroll? Well, hedging would have been the right move at minus 170. He would have bet $55,000 to win a little over $32,000. If the price was different, it could have been a hedge. The better the price, the more likely you are to hedge. And if the odds to hedge make the bet at least EV neutral, it becomes an easy decision. You'll make a hedge regardless of how big your bankroll is. And if Rufus's bankroll had been smaller, it would have been an easy decision as well. The hedge would have grown his bankroll enough to make the play worthwhile. But without the bankroll and the price lining up, hedging can hurt you in the long run because you cripple your bankroll's growth. So back in 2006, we said the hedge you could have taken on Seattle was plus 150. If you had a $25,000 bankroll, guaranteeing yourself $3,400 by betting $2,600 on the Seahawks wasn't the optimal way to grow your bankroll. But if your bankroll was half that, it would have been wise to hedge a little more than $1,000. That can feel scary sometimes, especially if the guy who could make you $300,000 is knocking the ball all over the course. But like most decisions in sports betting, when you trust the math, you end up with the best outcomes in the long run. Now, cash-out offers are a close cousin of hedging, and they can be an even worse idea. One bettor had a $5 parlay that could have paid nearly $200,000 if the last leg connected. He was one Mookie Betts home run away from a big score. The cash-out offer stood at $12,000. Here's a video to let you know what happened next.